Tonight we're doing two important topics together: free will and predestination, bechira chofshit and mazal. And in some ways they do go together. But because this is a very extensive subject, we're going to do a little bit of it next week. Today we're going to speak about what free will is and what the mazal is. But next week I will share with you how to change the mazal. That's really a subject in itself, so we're going to have to leave that on its own. Tonight I'm going to assume that all of you believe that there's something called free will, and I don't need to prove it. In the very beginning of Sefer Bereshit, the Torah actually discusses that in different words. When man is created, he's created separately from all other animal species. Kadosh Baruch Hu creates the world. There's a lot of effort going into describing every part of the creation, every single day something else. But man is created towards the end by himself, not together with the other animals, even though he's a living being himself too. He's created separately because he's different. Simply, he's different and therefore he's created separately. Even though he's different, the rabbis tell us that he consists of Elyonim and Tachtonim. He was created from the two worlds, the upper worlds and the bottom worlds. He's half angelic, half spiritual, and half animal. He has the two kohot. He has the two parts to him that are very different, but are to be found in him, as opposed to any other creation in the world. He has a little bit of the animal in him, and he also has a little bit of the spiritual in him. However, even though he has a little bit of both, what is unique to him alone is what Sefer Bereshit goes on to explain, is that he was created B'Tzelmenu Kidmutenu, or B'Tzelem Elokim, in the image of God. What does all that mean? Kadosh Baruch Hu has no image. There are various explanations, but the simple explanation of what B'Tzelmenu Kidmutenu means is that he has a different form, a form that's unique to him. He stands upright and not on four legs. So even his form, the fact that he stands upright, does not crawl on four, gives him a different appearance. Man just does not look like another animal. Kidmutenu, Rashi says, lehavinu lehaskil, he has the ability to reason, something animals do not have. He has the ability to comprehend, to study. And another word that the Torah uses is vayitzer. If you look at the word vayitzer, it has two yuds. Keneged shnei hayetzarim. Man is endowed or has two different forces that are pulling him or driving him. One is the Yetzer Hara, one is the Yetzer Hatov, the evil instinct and the good instinct. Opposite powers, opposite forces. Vayitzer also means something else. It is mentioned, it is brought down, that man was created in such a way that he has something in him that remains with him forever, even after his death, from which HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be able to recreate him in Tchiyat HaMetim, when all the dead will rise, when they will be resurrected. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, from the very beginning, Vayitzer, he put into him, into the creation of mankind, of the human being, something that will allow him to be recreated later on, as opposed to an animal. It comes from dirt, it goes back to dirt, and there's nothing eventually in the future going to come out of that animal. And one of the most important clauses, Vaypach be'apav nishmat chaim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu blows in the human nostril a spirit of life, nishmat chaim. That's the same word, the same letters of neshama. That is the part that comes from Hashem. Everything comes from Hashem, but that's the part that comes from the olamot elyonim, from the upper worlds. And another word later on that says, Vahi adam nefesh haya, he became a living being, but so is everything else a living being. So the commentators explain, yes, but this living being received the power of speech. So you see the various differences of this creation called the human being, but the most important one that we're going to be talking about is the neshama. Because by virtue of the fact that he received the neshama, he received something else. And that something else is called free will. In order to understand this free will, I just want to make a brief statement, and that is that everything in creation, if you analyze it, you will see, was given the tools for survival. Even if you ever wondered why a rhinoceros has little horns, or why certain animals have certain features, those features have something to do with their survival. Certain animals, certain reptiles have some camouflage to protect them from their from those predators that go after them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu obviously wanted to create a world that will continue to exist, that will survive, and not only did He provide for the genes to reproduce themselves, again, in future generations, whether it's a plant, whether it's a tree, whether it's a fruit, whether it's a human being or an animal, HaKadosh Baruch Hu provided the means for all of these to reproduce. But He also put into place something that will make sure that this survives. Well, what happened to the dinosaurs? What happened to many animals that have gone extinct? There's several explanations. One, well, man does have the ability to make certain animals extinct by killing them off, by hunting them. Besides that, the only animals or the only species that received the blessing not to go extinct are the fish. They received a special blessing because they're so hunted, overhunted. Hashem gave them a special blessing, and that's why they will not go extinct. But there's no beracha for animals not going extinct. So even though Hashem put into place a system that provides for procreation, reproduction, and the like, there's no guarantee. There are reasons and there are possibilities for a species to go extinct. So in the same way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives the kelim, the tools for all these animals to survive, whether it's the teeth to hunt, the paws, the feet, the speed to run away, Hashem also provided the human being with several kelim, tools for his own survival. And the most important keli, the most important tool, is that free will through which he makes decisions. This free will becomes apparent through the neshama, because the body itself, the physical body, has no free will. All it is a piece of meat. It does not really make any decisions. The neshama is treated like the captain of the ship, or like the driver behind the car. The body is the car, and the driver is the neshama. It is the one that makes decisions. The car cannot go on its own wherever it wants to. The driver makes the decisions. In the same way, the goof on its own cannot make decisions. The neshama is the one that needs to guide the goof. Through this free will, several things happen. The human being is able to contribute to this world by his decisions. Through the free will, he is able to either get closer or farther from his Creator, depending on what he does. And it's through the free will that man's deeds will eventually be evaluated. That is how he will be judged. We need a way to judge him, to judge success or failure. By what means? By his deeds. How? Through his free will, what decisions he made. The fact that the human being has no, or does not work, or do things by instincts, proves a very important point. Not only are we not animals, but we actually have a very important role in creation, a very important job of great responsibility. Otherwise, why didn't Hashem just give us instincts? Because instincts is all you need for survival. Obviously you need certain tools, but instincts to be able to function, to live, to survive. The fact that we don't only have instincts, that we have this free will that animals don't have, is a very important point. It's that man has an important job that requires decision making, and sometimes they are very important decisions. And when you have decisions, you have responsibility. So we have great responsibilities by the fact that we have free will. But many of these decisions are not easy. And one of the reasons why decisions are not easy is because many times we have these two forces that I mentioned earlier pulling in different directions, the Yetzer HaTov and the Yetzer Hara. And that's partly why sometimes we can't make decisions so easily. The Yetzer HaTov, which is more spiritual, wants that which is more spiritual, what the neshama likes and enjoys. And the Yetzer Hara, the evil instinct, is pulling in a different direction, what the body wants, what the body lusts for and desires. And that is why many of the difficult decisions cannot be made, because we have two opposite forces pulling in different directions. If that's the case, then how is man ever supposed to know what to do and how to decide? If everything will always be confusing, forces pulling him in different directions. Well, HaKadosh Baruch Hu provided for that too, by giving the majority of the world the 7 Noahide laws, Sheva Mitzvot B'nei Noach, and by giving us, the Jewish people, the 630 mitzvot, the Torah, what we call the Torah. Had we not received the Torah, would we have known anything? Yes. The rabbis tell us there are certain things that are common sense, that without the Torah we would even have been able to learn it from animals, like modesty from a cat, diligence from the ant, and not devotion from doves, but what do you call it when they're very honest with each other. Faithfulness from doves. In other words, there would be certain midot, certain characteristics, certain ideas that we would be able to pick up on our own. There is something called common sense, especially after Adam HaRishon ate from the Etz Hadat. He ate from that tree he was not supposed to eat. And as soon as he did, he discovered certain things through his neshama. The neshama was able to see with a magnifying glass, if we can say so, what it was not been able to see before. And that is le'avhin ben tov le'ra, to be able to distinguish between that which is good and that which is evil. You ask a goy, are you able to distinguish between good and evil? He might say, well, depends. Depends in what kind of a mood I am. In other words, something might be right for me today, maybe I'll change my mind tomorrow. But if you think about it, every human being, if he's honest with himself, has something called a conscience. And if he does not go by his moods and by his desires, and he pays close attention to his neshama, which every human being has, even though the Jew's neshama is something different, but everyone has what's called a divine spark in him, something that's spiritual, today known as conscience. Why are people's conscience bothering them? Because they know deep down, they know the truth on a certain level. So on a certain level, human beings would know right from wrong, but only on a certain level. Without the Torah, we would not have a good guide. And you know what happens when you don't have a good guide? Imagine you are for the first time at the gates of Disneyland. You've never been there. And you are told, sir, even though this is your first time here, and your last time here, you only have a half an hour to see the place. Which ride would you like to see, sir? Well, I don't know. I think it would be a good idea to find out from those who have been through it, which ride or which rides does it pay? Half an hour's time? There are no lines. You can get on whichever ride you want. Which ride would you get on? Anybody want to suggest, by the way, which ride you would want to get on? I would suggest it's a small world. Because it's a small world. There's a lot of nice, cute lessons to be learned from It's a Small World. From that small little ride, there's a lot of little lessons. If you pay close attention, there's a lot of nice little lessons to be learned there. In any event, if we had no guide and no one to ask, man's life is very short. He would squander his time discovering all of this world. He would want to see what Australia looks like, what Niagara Falls looks like. There's so much to see, so much to discover, so much to do. Thousands of years would not be enough for us to do and see everything there is to see. So we need a guide. What should we do in the 60, 70, 80 years that we have left? Which ride should we get on? Where should we put our money and effort? What's the most important? So we need the Torah also as a guide, not only to be able to help us in distinguishing between right and wrong, but also as a guide. And also, the Torah provides, for the Jewish people at least, the purpose of life, what we're here for, what we should focus on. So it's not only a guide to give us direction, it's also a way of focusing our efforts in our ultimate tachlit. We all have a purpose. Every human being has a purpose, but the Jewish nation have a special task, a special job, and that is provided to them in the map of life called the Torah. If we would not have the Torah, if the non-Jewish world would not have any mitzvot, they would also not know what is their particular job. Every human being has a particular job. How are they eventually supposed to find out what that particular job is? I'll share that with you momentarily. But without mitzvot, without Torah, nobody would really know too much. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in order to balance the various forces that are drawing us in the various directions, in order for us not to be scattered, He gave us the Torah and gave the non-Jewish world the mitzvot, hopefully in order that mankind should have some sort of sense of direction and should not only go by what their desires are. In other words, the human being should not just fall prey to his own personal desires. He should have more of a sense of direction. He should have a better idea of what is expected of him. And that is what the Torah accomplishes and what the 7 mitzvot b'nei Noach do for the non-Jewish world. However, in order to encourage us to do a good job, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us something else. Olam haba. You keep the mitzvot, you follow this Torah that I'm giving you, not only will you have a good sense of direction, not only will you have a balance in life, not only are you going to make the right decisions, but you also will have sechar. You will be rewarded for what you're going to do. This is in order to encourage us, and for other reasons as well. That is what Olam Haba is all about, and that is what the sechar for the mitzvot is about. Now we understand a little bit why the Torah, when God creates the world, does not say on the human being, kitov. On just about every part of creation, Hashem says, kitov, I see what I've made, it's good. What do you mean it's good? Obviously it's good. If it's good in the eyes of Hashem, it means that it serves a purpose. Hashem did not create anything in the world that has no purpose. Just like every part of our body has a purpose, don't get rid of it. It serves a purpose. Every insect, every reptile, every fruit, everything has a purpose. And if something serves that purpose, it's tov. What's tov to us is relative. We don't know. What's tov, good for me may not be good for you. If Hashem says on something that it's tov, it means zemevi la tachlit. It serves the purpose. On the human being, Hashem did not say he's good when he was created. Why not? Because that determination we can only make at the end of a human being's life, how he lived his life. When a baby is born, he may look cute and beautiful, but he may turn out to be a monster. So we don't know if this man being born, that everybody's full of smiles and happy about, is good. Hashem therefore does not say the word good on man. He on his own will decide whether he's good or not on how he lives his life, what decisions he makes. That's what decisions are all about. The decisions we make will be the way Hashem will use to measure whether we're good or not. What have we seen till now? That the sechel, the intelligence that Hashem gave mankind, along with the Torah, the mitzvot, they provide for us a certain sense of direction of what to do in a limited way, but not in an all-encompassing way. Not in an all-encompassing way. The mitzvot, the sechel, is not enough. There are certain things that we will not necessarily know. There's another system that Hashem created in the world that provides for us a little bit more direction, and that's called the masala. The mazal is a force or a system that, amongst other things, takes a human being and places him where he needs to be in this world. If we would not have something called mazal, everybody would want to be a doctor. Everybody would want to be a lawyer. Isn't it interesting that not everybody chooses the same career? And it's not because they're not A students. You have A students who do not necessarily want to be nuclear physicists, right? They choose whatever they like, whatever they're pulled to. What's pulling them in that direction? Something called mazal. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into this world a system called mazal that also, in a sense, gives man direction. Not only does his sechel give him a little bit of help, not only does the mitzvot give him some direction, but the mazal places him in certain spots of this world, on this world, and also manages his life, as we will see soon, in certain ways, and decides for him what profession or what job he's going to occupy himself for every individual in this world. We spoke about free will until now. Free will says that there's some degree of independence that we have in making our decisions. Mazal is just the opposite. This system called mazal is a system which limits us and confines us. We don't have shlita, we have no control over it. We have some control, as we'll see next week. But up until now, we got used to this idea, yes, we're independent in some ways, we have free will, we can decide, but can we decide everything? If anybody tells me yes, then I will tell them, well, what happens when you go to court? And you're a defendant. Are you going to decide what the verdict will be? You have free will. Why don't you decide? Because so do they have free will. We do not have complete control over our fate and destiny because of that system called mazal. So yes, free will is important. It helps us make our decisions. It is the system that Hashem will use to judge if we succeeded or failed. But then there's another system that Hashem has put into place called mazal, which manages a different part of our life and which is necessary. But the big difference between that system and the system of free will is that this is a limited system where we have very little control over. I'll explain soon. The first significance of this system is that nothing in this world is arbitrary. B'mikre. There is cheshbon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with precision. There's a reason for every little detail, for every color, on every flower and every plant, all the galaxies. There's a reason for every little detail. If that's the case, there are certain things in this world that people on their own would not know, would not be able to do on their own. And the one example that I gave was choosing a profession. Well, what if everybody chose the same thing? Well, this profession makes the most money. What did we say before? There needs to be a balance, not only a balance between mind and matter, between the Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara, but there needs to be a balance in this world, that nothing should go extinct, everything should function perfectly, that there should be rain on time. In order for there to be a good balance, there has to be certain rules. Some of these rules are known today as science, or as weather, or as physics. There are certain rules that Hashem put into place, and you cannot escape those rules. The system of rules that people are less familiar with is the system of mazal. But all mazal really is a form of weather, not of rain and wind, but of what happens to the human being in this world. And what characteristics does he have? Does he have a temper? Is he lazy? By nature. This is a system that Hashem put into place that manages, just like the weather manages, a certain part of creation. Hashem is still the boss, he's still in control, he created all of this, but he delegates the various systems to various departments that manage this world, manage life. Now this area called mazal is very important to us because it affects us. Not only does it affect us, that is the only area almost that we have no control over. So here we got used to the idea that we have free will, and here we have to get used to, for a moment, to an area where we have no free will. Certain things are decided for us, min hashamayim, for some reason. We don't know the reason. But Hashem does, because nothing is arbitrary. If nothing is arbitrary, that means that there is a reason for everything. Mazalot also explain why certain people have a harder life than others, because it touches on another subject called the reincarnation, Gilgulei Neshamot. There's something called tikkun for the neshama. The neshama can come back several times to repair, to contribute something it left out, to fulfill something. And part of that tikkun may involve being born in a certain mazal. Just imagine, just a quick example, because I know I'm throwing a lot of information and we don't have time to elaborate on every detail, so I'll need to give you an example. Imagine somebody is born in a faraway city in Russia in 1955, and he grew up knowing almost nothing about Judaism. There was no Chabad there, there was no synagogue, there was no mikveh, and he grew up just like any other Russian. But he's Jewish, his father and mother are both Jewish. He's going to go upstairs, and what are they going to tell him? Why didn't you put on tefillin? Why didn't you keep Shabbat? I don't know what you're talking about. But he has a neshama of a Jew. Hashem needs to bring him down again. Next time, that neshama will be born in Bnei Brak, to a religious family. That neshama will have no excuse. So there is a need for gilgulim, and there's also a need for certain mazalot. A mazal is also a package. You can't get everything. You get certain things that match your goal, your purpose, your tikkun. And Hashem knows what that tikkun is, and places that neshama in that particular mazal. So the mazal has various ideas to it. In other words, there's various purposes for it. It's an important system that Hashem put into place that manages a lot of things, including the tikkun of neshamot in a second or third reincarnation. This mazal, when is it determined what it will be? So the rabbis tell us 40 days before the formation of the fetus. 40 yom kodem yetzirat havlad. There is a malach that is in charge of this tipa, of this drop. Tipa zu mateh alea. What will we do with it? What hour and month will it be born in? Will it be rich or poor? Will it have children or not? How long of a life should we give it? 64 years? Or how about 116, like this lady in Japan right now? She just had a birthday, 116. For some reason, Hashem gave her arichut yamin. Good memory, photographic memory, or simple memory, or a hard head. How about parnasah and health? How much of that? All of that is decided 40 days before the formation of the fetus. In other words, at the time of conception. What does that tell you? The timing. It's very important, the timing here, because this is much, much before this individual becomes a tzaddik or rasha. Much earlier in time, 20 or 30 years before this individual decides whether he will be a righteous man or an evil man. What do we see? We see that one's mazal has nothing to do with what this man eventually will choose for himself, which is one of the explanations of why tzaddik beral or rasha betovlo, which I'll elaborate more next week, of why some good people are having a hard mazal and some bad people are making millions of dollars. Because it has nothing to do with what they're doing now. That mazal was already predetermined 40 days before the formation of the fetus. At that moment, we don't know what this man will be, this woman will be. So one's mazal has nothing to do with the future. It may have something to do with the previous reincarnation, but definitely not with what he will do with himself. Even though akol bidei shamayim, everything is in the hands of heaven, there's something which is not in the hands of heaven, chutz mirat shamayim, except for the fear of heaven. Because what did we say before? There's a great deal of leverage in the area of fulfillment of mitzvot. We have free will. That's not limited. One can decide tomorrow morning whether he puts on tefillin or not. It has nothing to do with his mazal. Whether one keeps Shabbat or not. Whether one smokes on Shabbat. Whether one drives on Shabbat. It has nothing to do with his mazal. It's up to him entirely. There's another area where the rabbis tell us it's up to us. If we catch a cold or not. Next time, dress well. If you catch a virus, certain things are contagious. Chutz mitzinim pachim, the rabbis tell us. There are certain things that, if you're not careful, obviously you may catch them. And there's other little things that perhaps one has some ability to decide. But otherwise, the only major area in life where we really have free will is in the area that counts the most, upstairs. That is our ma'asim, our deeds. How we acted, how we behaved, what we did spiritually. In other words, mitzvot or averot. Not how much money we made. That makes no difference to them upstairs because they are the ones that decided anyway how much we're going to make. They don't care. Why didn't you work 16 hours a day? Why were you so lazy? Why did you only work 6? They don't care about these things. That has to do with the mazal, nothing to do with what we accomplish and succeed as far as spirituality, as far as mitzvot or averot halila. What they're concerned with are ma'asim. And when it comes to ma'asim, we have complete free will. When it comes to other areas of life, we do not have free will. It's already decided beforehand for some reason. That is why Shlomo Melech emphasizes several times in the Sefer of Kohelet, a book that I very much recommend everyone to read, to know well. This is what he says, Shabti vera'o tachat hashemesh. I sat down and analyzed life. Kilo lakalim amerotz. It's not those who are swift who win the race. Velo lagiborim hamilchama. Not those who are powerful who win the war. V'gam lo lachachamim lechem. It's not those who are intelligent who are able to earn a living and have bread. V'gam lo lanebonim osher. Not those who have great understanding and are good advisors. Are they the ones who accumulate wealth? What does it all depend on? It depends on mazal. In other words, it's not the PhD, what he's trying to say, that will bring you money. It has to do with the mazal. It makes no difference how smart you are, how fast you are. It depends on what the mazal is. If a person has a good mazal, he may not even know how to sign his name in English, and he will make millions. A person can be very, very smart, he can be a genius, and he can be poor. What does it depend on? It depends on his mazal. And that is why the rabbis also tell us, B'ni hayu mizone la b'schut atalya milta ela b'mazala de'ela. B'ni, children, hay, life. Umzone, livelihood, does not depend on how righteous a person is either. It depends on the mazal of de'ela. Whatever Hashem decided to give him as far as mazal is concerned. However, even though mazal determines zabat quite a bit, rabbis tell us another important point. Israel me'al hamazal. I intentionally did not use the other saying, En mazal Israel, because that's not accurate. A lot of people like to quote, yes, there is mazal, but en mazal Israel. That's not so true. The discussion in the Gemara about whether yesh mazal Israel or en mazal Israel, whether Am Israel has mazal, has to do whether we are able to change it or not. Nobody argues the fact that Am Israel is also under the mazal. The only question is, can we change it or not? So the bottom line is, the conclusion is, Am Yisrael me'al hamazal. We are above the mazal, which means, as Rashi says, we have the ability to change it through tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah, which I'll explain more next week. It is possible for us to change. It's not set in stone. So Am Yisrael has a special relationship with Hashem. We have a special agreement. We're His children. And it is possible to change. So we are above the mazal. It doesn't mean we have no mazal. These changes that can occur in a mazal prove 3 things. If one is able to change it mazal, it proves, number 1, that Hashem mitarev, that Hashem can intervene. Even though Hashem created the world, He's still around. He intervenes and can change things. The fact that certain things are subject to shinuyim, to change, means that there's something called miracles. Some people could not have had children medically. Doctors would have sworn that this couple will never have, and they had. So the fact that certain changes do occur shows what we call miracles. And number three, since the masal can change, what that should remind us is that we should never give up hope. Lo lityaesh. And the reason for that is because Hashem does have two systems, something called midat adin and something called midat rachamim, judgment and mercy. And obviously that is what prayer is all about. It is possible for us to ask Hashem to use midat rachamim and not midat adin. Midat adin, in other words, would say, this is what needs to be, this is your mazal, this is your tikkun, this is what it should stay. But since now we know that it is possible to change, we need to know how these changes occur. Well, it occurs through something called midat rachamim. But I'll explain that a little bit more next week. When does all this happen? When do all these changes occur, if they ever occur? Usually on Rosh Hashanah. Because think for a moment, you may have been used to hearing that on Rosh Hashanah certain things are decided. Who will live and who will die, who will be poor and who will be rich, who will be sick, who will be healthy. But wait a minute, I thought all of that was already decided 40 days before the formation of the fetus. So what do we need Rosh Hashanah for? You mean Rosh Hashanah decisions are being made? Yes, decisions are being made is because we are constantly making decisions. So Hashem is reevaluating his decision of what he made 40 days before the formation of the fetus. In reality, the Kabbalah says that a man is judged 4 times. Every day, when he goes to sleep, his neshama goes upstairs to give an account of what it did during the day. An accounting, right, of what it did during the day. When Rosh Hashanah comes about, a person is judged for everything he did during the year. When one departs from this world, he will be judged for everything he did during his entire lifetime. They will look at his entire life. Perhaps they will take an average. Tchiyat HaMetim, they will evaluate all the gilgulim, all the times, all the life cycles that this man or woman was here in this world. And a decision will be made. A decision is always made after these days of judgment. But the significance right now of Rosh Hashanah is more important to us because we're not dealing with Tchiyat HaMetim, and definitely, hopefully not with the day that we depart from this world. We're more concerned about this once a year. This once a year is very important because decisions are being made, our situation is being reevaluated, and what will happen? Something called gezerot, decrees. Hashem is the king, and the king makes decrees. Decrees are what you may call, in today's English, amendments. You know, there's amendments to the Constitution. Well, the Constitution was written, and there's a need to amend it, to change it. On Rosh Hashanah, Kadosh Baruch Hu can decide to amend, to change this person's mazal, for good or for bad. Or, there's a third choice, status quo. We leave him according to what the mazal is from when he was a little baby. In other words, 40 days before the formation of the fetus. From that point on. Status quo, or is it better, or is it worse? All of that is decided on Rosh Hashanah. Because Rosh Hashanah is a time to reevaluate everything that a person has done, to see if he has come any closer to his tikkun, or he has gone farther away from his tikkun. What did we say before? Hashem wants that there to be a balance. Things cannot deteriorate. Things cannot go out of hand. Everything has to be balanced. Hashem balances everything on a scale when he judges us on Rosh Hashanah. And obviously, that judgment will be based on what? On our ma'asim. What kind of ma'asim? The ma'asim that we chose by our free will, not what the mazal chose for us. Obviously, you can only be judged by what you actually had the ability to do. And the rabbis remind us, don't worry. En HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba betrunya in biryotav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will not demand or expect of you more than what your real potential is. Hashem knows what our true potential is and will not expect more or less. What happens, therefore, on Rosh Hashanah, we have 3 systems coming together at one time. The system of mazal, that may change, the system of free will, our ma'asim, and the system of ashgacha pratit, as we call it in English, divine providence, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually intercedes and decides what changes to make. What most people forget is the additional ideas behind Rosh Hashanah. It's not only a day of judgment where changes can be made to the mazal, it's also a time for reflection. If we are being judged, what should that remind us? You are responsible for your actions. You have free will. You have the ability to make decisions. And that is why you're being judged. Otherwise, why am I being judged? I'm just like a robot here. No, don't think like that. And some people do have that attitude. And there have been certain philosophies that subscribe to this, that we have no say in the matter. And that is why they try to justify all these crimes being committed and all these terrible acts of immorality. No, he's just born like that. He just has it in his blood, in his system. He became like that because that's the way he is. And it's not possible to change. That is very, very untrue. And very unhealthy to think that way too. Human being has complete control of certain behavior. Not all, obviously a person is sick. He cannot control certain things. But when it comes to the behavior, normal behavior, how he speaks, how he handles people, how he relates to them, what he does, whether he's kind or not, whether he commits a crime, whether he passes a red light, unless he didn't see it. I mean, people make mistakes. There's something called shkaga, unintentional. He may be unaware of something. Nevertheless, we have a great degree of control over our actions, certain actions. And that is what we are reminded about on Rosh Hashanah. If we are being judged, it's because we have tremendous responsibility. Life is serious. We have an important job here. We were placed here not to have fun. This is not a picnic. We have a job to complete. And it's not making a living. That's just to be able to survive. HaKadosh Baruch Hu provided us with the tools, the brains, the hands, the feet, and how to make and earn a living. But that's not what we're here for. So we're given this time not only as a chance to make changes, but also for reflecting on what we have done throughout a whole year and what needs to be changed. Another reason that Rosh Hashanah is important is for us to wake up. Many people are asleep, not only at night, during the day, every day of their life, not doing what they should be doing. So that's the purpose of the shofar. Le'ayir, otanu mitardema, to awaken us from our sleep. The life is short, and there's a lot of work to accomplish. As the rabbis tell us, Ayom katzar v'melacha meruba. The day is short, but there's a lot of work to be done. So since we see that man has great ability and great potential, nevertheless he's limited in certain ways by his mazal, the rabbis therefore tell us there's no reason to admire he who is wealthy, or he who can lift 500 pounds, or he who has a great memory. That's nothing to admire. And a lot of people do admire these things. Oh, he's such a genius. He has a great memory. That's nothing to admire. He was born with that. That's a gift from Yeshamayim. That's his mazal, or inheritance, depending where he got the money. It has nothing to do with what he achieved on his own, truly on his own. The rabbis only admire achievements, personal achievements, that came about not through our mazal, but through our own efforts. He has a temper, but he has learned to control himself. He had a particular vice, a ta'ava, a desire, and he overcame it. He used to be like that, and now he has changed. He's calmer. That's admirable, and that's not easy. But that can be done, because we have free will. That's something to admire. That which we have from our mazal, it was given to us. We were born with it. Obviously it developed over time, but it's nothing that it came about through our real efforts. It's therefore nothing to admire. Obviously we respect those who use their money to give tzedakah. We look up to those who are smart, but it's nothing to admire and to point out, because he was born like that. It's a gift from Yeshamayim. What did one do on his own? That deserves our attention. That deserves credit. What I want to do now in the last few minutes is talk a little bit about something called hishtadlut. When people hear me speak about mazal, how everything is almost set in stone, how we're limited in some ways, how Rosh Hashanah, it's decided how much money we're going to make this coming year, all of these things are already predetermined, then how much hishtadlut should I do? How much should I work? 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day? Should I take a second job? Well, maybe I can make $150,000 instead of $45,000. How do I know? Should I try? Isn't that a good question? Next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll talk a little bit about one of the details that belongs to this question, called lo lidchok et hasha'ah, not to push our luck too much. It's an important detail, but right now what I want to do is just tell you a little bit about how much our ishtadlut should be. First of all, there's something called beracha and klala, blessing and curse. I think all of you will agree with me, it says so clearly in the Torah, that to work is a curse. You will earn your living through the sweat of your brow. Right? So that's a curse. Well, a blessing is if you have to work less. If you can work less hours and still make the same money, then you have received a blessing. Beracha means shefa, it means abundance. There's beracha that comes down in Hashemayim that certain people are able to receive, and Am Yisrael can also receive it as a nation, if we merit it, where if that would be the case, we would prosper. Less effort in that which is material would make the same or more, because that is what blessing is all about. Less of the curse. On the other hand, a person can be cursed, that he should work many, many hours. A person does not have to curse himself by working on Shabbat. Shabbat is not supposed to be a curse, so why are you working on Shabbat too? But anyway, not everybody knows that working is a curse, right? That's where they work and work and work. But that's what it's all about. If one is blessed, he will discover very quickly that he can work less hours and make the same amount of money. Since we do not know if we're blessed or not, we need to be normal. And normal means working 8 hours a day or so. One does not need to work more than that. It's not written anywhere that one has to work 9, 10, 11 hours, especially if those additional hours will take away from family time and will take away from his learning Torah and from his other obligations. There's no such halakha anywhere that one has to overexert himself. Nevertheless, if one does merit it, one will see Nashamayim, simanim, signs that he can work less. Hashem will show him that you don't have to work so hard by providing him a job that's close to his home and that's easy. As it is written in some nuschaot of Birkat HaMazon, Shetiyeh parnasatenu krova la'ir. We ask Hashem that our parnasah should be close to our homes. Some people have to travel 40 miles in every direction to their business. Some people have to go overseas once a week. You think that's so good? So what if they're making millions of dollars? That's not a beracha, that's a kilala. A beracha is that your parnasah should be working out of your home, if possible, or next door. Your bet HaKnesset should be down the block. Things should be easier. Now obviously certain things are tied to the mazal, but there's something called beracha. If one receives beracha, he will see a noticeable change in his parnasah. He doesn't have to work hard. So long as we do not know, we need to be normal. Normal means not to overdo it. However, there is something called midat habitachon that we've spoken about in the past. One is allowed to put his complete trust and faith in Hashem. Hashem, I want to make a deal with you. I own this shop, jewelry shop, downtown. And most people are there 9 to 5, 8 to 4. I only want to be there 3 hours of the day. I want to learn Torah the rest of the day. Can you make it that during those 3 hours all my customers will come? If he really is sincere, if he truly develops this midat habitachon and he's God-fearing, and he has no accusations against it, that can happen. Because that is what the rabbis tell us in different words. Kol ha'ma'avir mimeno. Kol ha'notel al atzmo ol Torah ma'avirim mimeno ol derech eretz. Whoever assumes upon himself the yoke of Torah, Hashem will remove from him the yoke of derech eretz, the yoke or the burden of mundane things. Kol ha'ma'avir mimeno ol Torah. Whoever removes from himself the yoke of Torah, they will put on him the yoke of derech eretz. You want to know what the yoke of derech eretz is? He will be audited by the IRS twice a year, not once, twice, right? He will have 3 flat tires, not 1, in 1 month. All of this is all derech eretz, problems that will occupy him and take his time, his effort, and maybe his money too. What do you need? What do we need this for? So the rabbis tell us, don't abuse your time, especially the time of Torah. If one, on the contrary, develops a good relationship with Hashem, confides in Him, boteach bo, he trusts in Him and says, Hashem, I really want to give more time to Torah. Make it happen. Hashem will make it happen that in 3 hours he will have all his customers. Now obviously not everybody's in that kind of a business and not everybody's situation is such that he can have that kind of a bitachon. But it is possible. All of this is possible. There's something called beracha, there's something called bitachon, there's something called ol Torah, that one assumes that Hashem removes other yokes and burdens. So all of this is possible. In the meantime, one just needs to be normal, to divide his time properly, time for everything, a time for work, a time for his family, a time for Torah, and not to overdo the kelala. So yes, hishtadlut is important. You can't sit at home and do nothing. You need to write a resume if you want to find a job, because maybe you're not such a big tzaddik that Hashem will send you the job knocking on your door. If you're a single man, you have to go looking for your soulmate. Who says she's going to come banging on your door? If you're a big tzaddik, then that girl that is your soulmate will knock on your door, and she will say, oh, I'm sorry, I got the wrong address. I meant the house across the street. But in reality, this is not a mistake. it was nice to meet you. You know, Hashem obviously made her bang on the wrong door because HaKadosh Baruch Hu was sending him. He was a good man, or he did a beautiful maaseh that he deserves, that his dating should be quick and easy with less problems. All of this has to do with the mazal. It has to do with the person's maasim. Nevertheless, a person should remember that there is a need for hishtadlut. One needs to make an effort, and unless he's in a great high level, you know, things will not come to his doorstep. If he is zocheh, and he sees that HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses him, then he's allowed to take that opportunity and work less. In other words, one needs to see his situation and reevaluate it from time to time if he can do that or not. If he has a blessing, in other words, if he has the permission from Hashem to do so. He cannot do so and deprive his kids from parnasah. That he cannot do. He has to support them. He needs to work. He needs to find himself a job. But to work less or more will depend on the beracha. What I want to finish with is the last pasuk of Kohelet. The last verse of Kohelet is a very important verse because Shlomo HaMelech is reminding us, after having said what he said, after all is said and done, Sof davar hakol nishma. In the end, everything is heard, everything is recorded. Et Elohim yirav et mitotav shemor. There's many things to do in this world. Yes, you want to go on vacation, you want to have a good time, you want to take pictures, you want to play golf, you want to play tennis. Why not? It's not asur, mutar. But remember, stay focused on the most important part of life, your ultimate job and goal. Fear God and keep His mitzvot. Ki zeh kol ha'adam. In reality, that's what man is all about. How will we distinguish man from man upstairs? Who's greater and who's not as great? Not by how much money, how many buildings he built, how much real estate he bought, how many countries he visited, how many souvenirs he has in his living room. No. Ki zeh kol ha'adam. Whether he kept the mitzvot and whether he was God-fearing. Ki et kol ma'aseh Elohim yavim b'mishpat. All the maasim, all the deeds that were performed, that were done in this world will be judged. And everything which may be hidden from others, whether it's good or bad, it will be disclosed eventually. The words here, Maaseh Elohim, what do they mean? Acts of God. So one of the commentaries, the Sephorna, says what this means is Maasim Ruchanim, in a sense. Things that we are really responsible for, not things that have to do with our mazal, that we cannot be fully responsible for. There are things that are not in our control, as I said before. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will judge us for our ma'asim that we are responsible for. And those are the ma'asim where we had direct free will. Bezat Hashem, next week, we'll cover the part of how to change the mazal. Nevertheless, even though we are limited by something called mazal, as I mentioned earlier, it is possible, especially for Am Yisrael, to make a change, for the better or for the worse. And how to do so, Bezat Hashem, we'll cover next week. I want to wish all of you Ektiva v'Chatima Tova, Shana Tova, and a Mazal Tov, Bezat Hashem. In case things were not so good this year, they should get better. And they should get better for all of Am Yisrael.
Amen. Same to you. Rabbi,
yes?
Maybe this course next week is a little too late because Rosh Hashanah is this Shabbos.
Right, I thought about that, even though Rosh Hashanah is this Shabbat. Nevertheless, we do have a tradition that says, even though things have been signed and sealed, you can appeal it. So you have a chance to be able to appeal any verdict. You have time until Hoshana Rabbah even. Nevertheless, obviously, we want to make our greatest efforts now and not to the last moment. So I try to cover as much as possible today, but this other part on how to change the mazal is important too and needs to be discussed separately. So B'ezrat Hashem will continue next week.